Well, hello everyone. Today I'm with Eleanor Higgins, Kuhns. Um, Hi, Ellie. How are you?
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm very good. Um, so, for most of high school, um, I sort of remember you um, not being very boastful, to say the least. Um, how did you view yourself as a student in person during high school?
Well, I was shy. I'm not shy now, but I was very shy. I was bookish. I did a lot of reading, and I think that, especially as an adolescent, I was always afraid of being judged. So I didn't put myself out there at all. So I kind of, tried to keep a low profile.
Okay. And while you might have been shy, you sort of had this wonderful relationship with Mr. Foley and King Lear. Could
Oh,
you tell me a little bit about that?
King Lear was a life-changing experience for me. Uh, Being in that play, well, first of all, it forced me to come out of myself because I was on the stage, even though I was saying lines, I was out there. And I met so many people that I didn't know. So it was truly one of the pivotal experiences of my life. And to this day, King Lear is my favorite Shakespeare play.
Uh, and because you have a personal relationship with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, Now, at one point in your life, you were married to Bob Walden
Mhm.
for 18 years, and you have two children with him. Um, and a number of years after your divorce, you went to Parents Without Partners meeting and you met Eddie, and a year later, you guys were married.
That's right.
And amongst other things, one of the things I know you love to do is to travel. Could you sort of share some of those travel experiences with us and what it meant to you in terms of how you think of your life and how you
Well,
live?
our first big trip was to Peru, and we actually went there because it was cheap and we could afford it. And it was again another pivotal experience in my life because it was such an exotic culture. I mean, we went to Machu Picchu, but we learned a lot about not only the Incas, but a lot of history that we don't necessarily learn the true history in this country. That was it. That made us travelers, and from then on, we tried to do a big trip every couple of years. So we went to Scandinavia. We went to Italy twice. We've been to Greece. We went to the Danube, and right before the pandemic, we went to Costa Rica. And I can truly say that every trip, I learned something. I learned something important to me every trip. It was, they talk about travel being broadening. Well, I am here to tell you that that is the truth. I loved it.
And what happened in Costa Rica? Was there anything special there?
Oh, well, I love Costa Rica. I loved it so much. I kept saying to Eddie, we should move here. He was not really in favor, but we went zip lining in Costa Rica. And I am deathly afraid of heights. We went to the first mountain, which was a bunny mountain, and I looked at it and I almost turned around and walked down to the beginning. I was not going to do this. But Eddie and the friends we were traveling with convinced me that I could do this. And I did it. And I did the other six mountains in this lip lining thing. And some of them were so high, we were way above the treetops. And I did it. I conquered my fear. Of course, I got off. My legs were trembling, so I could barely walk, but I made it.
But you did it.
I did it.
So you live life with
Yeah,
gusto.
you have to challenge yourself all the time. And that's my motto. You live life with gusto.
You know, it's interesting. You sort of also have shared that with a number of people. And at one point in your life, you've actually had people live with you. How did that come about? And who were these people? And
Well, I've had not only children, but I've had a couple of adults live with me. mainly children though, and they were all people who, for one reason or another, needed a helping hand. And I took my first one was Ginny, who was Susan Wolven's, Bob's sister's child. She lived with me for a year. But there were many, many others after that. I mean, I took in one of Laura's friends, April, who at 15 got pregnant and her parents threw her out of the house. So she had literally nowhere to go. And she's pregnant. And of course, 15, what do you do? So I think we should all try to make the world a better place. And this was my piece. This was my piece. I have, as Connie always tells me, I have an affinity for kids, and I was able to do it. Although at one point my living room was turned into a dormitory. I had so many kids living with me.
It's rather extraordinary, actually.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I will never be sorry that I did it. I will never regret it, because I think it was good certainly for the kids, good for my kids. And I still have very close relationships with all of those kids who are all grown now with kids of their own to this day. So it was good for me too.
Helping others is always the best way to help yourself.
It was, and of course it keeps you fresh.
Yeah.
I learned to play video games and was actually pretty good at them. I developed a taste for hard rock and heavy metal, which of course I never thought I would, but it's a way in, to reach the kids.
Nice.
And, so it was an experience. It was a lot of energy. I'm not sure I could do it completely now, but, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Can you describe yourself in 3 words?
Well, I think I'm creative. I do a lot of crafts, and of course I write. I'm really persistent. I never give up. And I am not particularly a patient person. When I think of something, I like to have it happen right away. So I don't hang around.
I love that. I think another word that we might be able to use for you is upstander. You don't stand by and just watch. You go right in and help when others need you. That's pretty impressive. You were a librarian for a long time and loved it. And part of your retiring had to do with the pandemic and all. And
Yeah, I feel like they kicked me out. They closed the library.
Right. But you also, as you mentioned, you're an author. How did that come about?
Well, I've always wanted to be an author. I mean, I started writing my first stories when I was literally a child. When I was really in elementary school, I wrote a science fiction story. Every paragraph started with the word suddenly. So I've always wanted to be a writer. And even when I was a librarian, even when I had all of these kids, I always wrote. And eventually, of course, after some very modest success selling short stories, I was able to break into the novel market. And I've been, writing books ever since. So I'm up to 12, I think.
I like the way you think. That's very good. I think when you say I think, it's 12. It's interesting. I had mentioned that I see you as an upstander. And one of the things that I think you really took on is taking care of your mother and brother up in Maine. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, my brother Steve was developmentally disabled, and he lived with my mother. My mother was widowed, and so Eddie and I were driving up to Maine pretty much every weekend to take care of them, to try to make sure they had all their needs met, and the house was being taken care of, and there was somebody to come in and make lunch, and that kind of thing. And eventually we saw that this was not going to solve the issue. So both of us left our jobs and moved to Maine, and we took care of my mother and Steve until they both passed away. So we were there for a couple of years, in Maine. But on the good side, we ended up really liking Maine. So still go back for vacations and all of that. So it wasn't as terrible as it might sound. And of course, on the way to Maine, there is the only existent Shaker community left. So that was the wellspring for my first mystery.
Yeah, so this is a nice element, but frankly, it also speaks so much about you and Eddie as far as stepping up.
Mhm.
That's really something. Final question. If you were going to have dinner with 1, 2, 3 people, alive, dead, you can pick. Who do you want to have dinner with, and what would you want to discuss?
Well, I thought about this one a lot, and I think I would like to still have Robert Foley because he was so crucial to my life in, so many different ways, not just King Lear. He also started me reading William Faulkner, who I would like also to choose to have at this dinner. And I think I'd like to have Agatha Christie. Now, Agatha Christie and William Faulkner look like totally different authors. One writes very literary fiction, the other writes mysteries. But both of them have something that's the same. They have a strong sense of place.
Nice.
When you read a Faulkner,
Oh
it's
yeah.
set in Mississippi and it's the South. And Agatha Christie, I don't think she meant to have that necessarily, that strong sense of place, but it is so clearly of that time before World War II, where everything, for the affluent British, all the servants and all that, it is so clearly of that time. So I would like to be able to talk about some of that with them. Some of the
Ellie, I love listening to you. This could go on for a long time. Unfortunately, this is the time we have to say goodbye. This was really great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you, Neil. I think it's a lot due to your questions.
Well, thank you. You have a wonderful day, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the reunion in
Yes,
June of
thank you.
22.
I hope so. Bye-bye,
Okay,
Neil.
bye.
Bye.